Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. We're into August, which is definitely the more festive time in Canada and a little bit more laid back. And what a week it's been. We want to shift a little bit. I'm going to tie it all into what we like to talk about here anyway, energy and mining and whatnot and gold. And look at an article from Yahoo Finance about Monday stock market crash showing that the AI revolution isn't quite here yet. It's actually quite an interesting article, and I don't have a position necessarily. I'd like to bring up the question from those out there that distinguish between the hype and the promise of what AI can do and what it is doing, and what they're working on towards compared to what is it actually doing. And like all things, it falls into the same with the autonomous, cars. Is it fully autonomous? You can just jump in a car and it drives itself. That's kind of what people think when they think, an autonomous driving car. Boom. We can have robo taxis. Are we actually there? No. So deciphering between where we're hoping to be and we're kind of getting there, whether it's fusion, whether it's self-driving cars and flying taxis. We've got flying taxis, but that are commercial, that are workable. They're doing. How are we? Are we there, or are we not quite there yet? And a lot of it is just hype, excitement, which is great. Putting money towards exciting developments and where we can be in the future that's the fun part of investing. But was this kind of correction a reality check to go, well, we're not there yet? And to some degree, yeah, maybe that's true. I'd love to hear your thoughts to see what it is, because of course there's lots of opinions. Of course, inflation playing a major role, kind of coming to terms with the reality that the stock market is up, but it's up mainly because of the Magnificent Seven, which is basically your tech AI play. So if you're saying that that's your entire economy, that's worrisome, troublesome, and interesting, all wrapped into one. We see that I believe it's half of all startup investments were into AI of some kind in the US, and that's into I think 56 billion. There's been a lot of investment. Now, my question to people is that before we get into the energy cost, or maybe let's touch into the energy cost here, because that ties things together. The energy cost, if you thought crypto was harsh on the environment energy cost, AI is incredible. So a rack of traditional servers in a data center runs on 7 kilowatts of electricity. An AI increased processing uses 30 to 100. Now, some of the newer chips and ones that NVIDIA is working on, they say they're about 25 times more efficient. Once again, whether they are or not, I don't have any data to support that, but will they over time become more efficient? Of course, obviously, and AI is going to help in that. But once again, where are we today? So when you look at the fact that we are in an energy crisis and we also are in an energy transition, that's a lot of money to be spending on AI. Why aren't these tech companies that are concerned about the end of the world and global warming and how we're not going to exist at 2030 or 2050? Why aren't we raising billions, 50 billion, 100 billion, 300 billion in order to solve that? Because it isn't having windmills and offshore windmills and solar panels. That doesn't solve the problem. It's part of a tool, and I'm all for it. It's all part of a tool to address. But why aren't they really chasing after that? Why is the Inflation Reduction Act and a lot of the money being spent going towards AI and chip building and battery manufacturing, whenever that's the batteries themselves are just a part of the solution? So that's a good question, I think, that people have to ask themselves. Part of it is just glamour. I mean, it's a lot more exciting to certainly talk about AI and the transformative abilities of it, of large language models and whatnot. But where are we really and truly? And we see a lot of these companies shooting up to extensively high rates with high P ratios, and that is concerning. Of course, there was the trade and carry issue, which people have focused on. I'm going to leave that part out. That's a bit more, kind of finance related. That is not as exciting a conversation to talk about than necessarily the AI and the tech kind of play. But I wanted to kind of highlight an interesting article that came out as well that said AI is effectively useless, and that it's one of the worst market bubbles that's out there. Once again, we all know that in today's market and media, it's the big news and headlines and the clickbait. That's what sells. And unfortunately, that works in every aspect of our life, in social situations, in politics, in whatever. The more audacious you can be, you're going to get picked up. And this veteran analyst, kind of mentions that it's energy hungry. It has these hallucinations. It's not as accurate. So that it's he's making the claim that it's definitely not. It's disappointing investors to a large extent. And you have to remember, at the end of the day, whatever they're spending on buying chips and making large language models like Gemini and whichever one you happen to use, OpenAI one, someone has to buy that. And how many extra apps are you willing to buy to edit your software, edit a photo, create this, create that? If the general public is facing with cost of living and rising at exorbitant rates, the rent's increasing, the housing is expensive, energy, food has gone up dramatically. Where are they going to get this money to keep on spending on AI products? And also, when we just only touched on the amount of energy it takes, and I'm not, kind of saying that this is a bad thing. I'm just saying there's a lot of issues right now, probably too many for all of us to focus on, and it's overwhelming because we do have an energy crisis. We've got a lot of misinformation surrounding that, and that unfortunately has broken across party lines, which doesn't make things good as well, and that's never helpful. Me myself, I love a large part of the energy transition story. Energy is the focal point of an entire country. That's what helps to build civilization. We certainly live in a time right now where we have to remind people that the stock market doesn't mean the economy, that they're not linked, and now more than ever, that's certainly the case. We've created more billionaires in the last 4 years than ever, while we've had a terrible economy, and we're getting gaslit about how great the economy is whenever people can look and see that there's massive inflation. And even if you do believe the government inflation, and even when you do believe the employment numbers, they're readjusted down, and that also has an effect. Now, on top of that, we touched on it in a post and a comment about how on Monday a lot of these trading platforms had kind of throttled your ability to sell. And that will be an entire conspiracy all on its own, which I'm not as interested in jumping into, because part of me thinks, listen, there's not a lot of traders anymore. Most of it's computer science people with some finance background creating algorithms. And those algorithms are doing a lot of the trading, even at investment banks and whatnot. And if you let them rule the roost or just run with it, they'll run through stops, and that could cause lots of problems, and then panic. And then you and I and everyone else jumps onto that panic and want to sell and exit. That can cause crashes quite quickly. And we've seen that the market is kind of buoyed back and settled down a little bit. It's hard to guess as to where things are going, because there's so much chaos out there. And there's so much misinformation out there, and there's so much hope and hype as to what AI can do, and it can do things. I'm not taking anything away from it. I mean, one place you can quickly look at is if you go look at the way they say in the pharmaceutical journal, it's transformative in its ability to help as a tool in drug discovery, in engineering, to process information, and to chart out and physically map out through using like audio visual, like goggles, whatnot, what a place might look like. There's so much really cool advancement to make things more streamlined, efficient, practical. And these are all in the kind of software app side, never mind the NVIDIA chips and whatnot. But even when we look at, say McKinsey, of their top things that one should look at or consider, their top technology trends, pretty much all of them, if we scan through for 2024, and this is just out. This just came out on July 16th. A lot of that is AI, because really when you're talking about, biotech, applied AI, generative AI, which we don't really have, like they're working towards it, software development, that in part is AI. Cybersecurity is implementing AI. So we can see that it is aiding as a tool in huge ways. Trying to keep up to speed, I won't pretend like I'm able to. I just like to bring up the conversation. It's very tough. And that, because it's so specific and the speed at which they are getting better at things is incredible. It's great. I mean, the amount of money being thrown at it is fantastic. We also have to kind of buoy with the fact that the layoffs in tech have been astounding. And this is something we always kind of bring back to that notion of, oh, jobs have never been better. There's been 60,000 tech layoffs in 2024, and Intel just with 15,000 the other day. So yeah, there's been an increase in jobs at like Uber, Lyft, delivery services, Tim Hortons and food, like at lower end, really hardworking jobs where people have to work 2-3 of them to get by. But no, the tech jobs are being cutting. So your high paid, investment banking jobs have been cut. Even in banking have been cut. We're seeing careers being cut at drastic levels, but yeah, there's job openings for very low end non-career jobs. And that is very, very telling for your economy or the overall health of your countries. And we're facing so many big changes with AI and how it can help and make things more efficient. But at the same time, there's investment going in it and lots of firing and letting go of people and record profits. So those people championing these companies, which often also control your social media, interestingly enough, who have faced say if you take a look at Google with their antitrust, their monopoly lawsuit, which they've just lost, which ties Apple in with them. Amazon has theirs that's currently going forward. That's going to be quite interesting. You have to remember that these companies are all owned by Alphabet. So when you look at these bodies of companies and you say, oh, there's a big seven, you can narrow those down to some of the same people, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So this was a big conversation, a bit of a rant, and we don't pretend to be futurists or tech gurus in any shape, form, or anything else. I just have a great interest in AI. I love to try to keep up to pace because it is very difficult, and be that kind of that go between to open up that conversation, because it does enter, I would class my world, very quickly, in that its demands on energy, its demands on the environment are extensive and immense. Now, can it also aid in that? 100%. It can, for sure. It can, once again, crunch numbers, help us create better models, possibly even models that are accurate for modeling weather and whatnot, which there aren't any right now. I will remind people, those models tend to be very inaccurate because you're dealing with way too much information, trying to assume many different things. It's not trying to figure out climate or weather or anything of that nature is exceptionally difficult. And anyone who's looked at trying to, look into that as a math side will definitely assert that in any shape or form. So I guess this topic really kind of combines that idea of it's fun to look at all the really cool things of robo taxis that are flying us from one building to the next in the future, and a genius type of assistant attached to our phone that maybe has a hologram that sets up all my meetings for me, gives me my David Goggins quote of the day, gets me pumped for the day, tells me what my workout's going to be, makes my phone call to my doctor, my dentist, and everything else, and does all these things for me, all these assistant type things for me. Those will come. Those are on their way. They're not here today, though. But that also means we have to have enough money to afford those things. And we need to get an economy back on track and get jobs back in order that are paying well, taxes down, cost of living down, so that future can even materialize for the people here, instead of worrying about someone else. If you want that, we have to worry about it here. And that comes coupled with energy. And we talk about the energy story a lot. And if you want to have that green story, the length of time it would get a permit to put in new nuclear reactors in order to attempt to even complete with China would be absolutely incredible. There would have to be a will in the US and Canada of no other if you really, really want to tackle that, and it's not there right now. I mean, there's people still debating on these kind of ideas. They're debating even on the green side. They can't make up their mind, even though they can look at the data if they felt like it and be clearly in favor. They choose not to. So we're facing so many different challenges all at once, not funding a lot of things properly that we should be. And that sends mixed messages as well to the market as to what's really important. And if you were just to look at the money, a lot of the climate initiatives aren't that important. The money's not going there, comparatively speaking. And when they are going to things, they're not going to the most efficient things, or the most practical or the most logical. And someone who wants to see a change, wants to see the best tools being applied in the best regions, that means, yes, geothermal. That means, yes, solar. It means wind. Yes. It means oil and gas in some places. It also means that we're going to have nuclear. So let's keep that conversation going. Love to hear your thoughts, because they do kind of come together of where you're going to see energy and how that's going to help AI, and if AI is going to play a role in helping us find new energy, whether it is with fusion or whether it is with better pipelines or data distribution or ways to create new types of silicon-based conductors. You name it. Let me know your thoughts. Send me articles that you think are really interesting. I'd love to see, because that stuff is the futurist, exciting things to talk about. And listen, the stock market has gotten kicked back a little bit. We'll leave people that are experts in that to focus on that. Go talk to your advisor, what you should be doing and what you should be looking at. But send us a message as to what your thoughts are and where you think things are going from here. Thanks for listening to The Rant. Hope you're enjoying your August, and get out there and get some sun.